Is John Cena turning heel the most shocking moment in WWE history? We dive into that as well as reviewing what happened at this past weekend's Elimination Chamber in today's episode of the J Area Wrestling Podcast. Members of the J Area, pro wrestling fans around the world, my name is Jose Ramos Jr., bringing you another episode of the podcast. And I mean, we got to talk about the Elimination Chamber. How can you not, right? A PLE that I don't think a lot of people were looking towards as a main attraction. You know, it's always been that in between show between the Royal Rumble and, of course, WrestleMania. But this one has a lot of eventful, happenings that took place in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. The biggest one, of course, as we have to address John Cena. John Cena wins the Elimination Chamber, defeating the likes of CM Punk, Damian Priest, Drew McIntyre, Seth Rollins, and Logan Paul, earning himself a championship opportunity against the WWE champion, Cody Rhodes. The manner in which he did it is a little bit questionable. I mean, upon watching the matchup itself, you see that Cody Rhodes was either going to face CM Punk or John Cena. I think those were the two main names that people were going into as their favorites to win this matchup. We saw that CM Punk and John Cena had that final face off, but ultimately CM Punk, his opportunity would be thwarted by interference by Seth Rollins, and it kind of gave John Cena an opportunity to pick up the scraps and almost win in a heelish way. You look at the way that this matchup has been built. You can go all the way back to the Royal Rumble matchup, and there were signs of what was to come in regards to John Cena. It's just a matter of not realizing it or accepting it, really. John Cena, of course, wanted to win the Royal Rumble, recognizing that his time in the WWE is very limited. When that farewell tour of John Cena, and he realized he needed to win the Royal Rumble to get a championship opportunity and have the chance to beat the Ric Flair record. Ultimately, that wasn't the case. He would lose at the Royal Rumble after being eliminated by the eventual winner, Jey Uso, in what was a shocking turn of events. Not a lot of people have pegged him as the Royal Rumble winner as well. That's back-to-back PLEs now that the WWE has managed to deliver quite the twist, quite the swerve, as some would say. So John Cena, following the pay-per-view, the premium live event, he would go on the post-show press conference and would say that he is going to announce his participation in the Elimination Chamber, saying that he's earned that right, believing that him main eventing WrestleMania, that is best for business. And for longtime viewers, longtime fans of the product, you guys already know that that's a little bit of a red flag. Some sirens were going on. John Cena doesn't talk like that. John Cena has always been the guy to say that you need to earn your spot, that nothing is given. He's the guy who's hustle, loyalty, and respect. So for him to come out following his Royal Rumble loss and to announce himself as a participant, not a lot of people, did a double take. It's like, oh, of course, it's John Cena, one of the all-time greats, 25 years in the business, 20 years as the top guy in the WWE. So we didn't really bat an eye at what was happening. But again, it's one of those deals where you look at the smaller details. And John Cena, the tone in his voice, how serious he was. Obviously, he's not going to be a happy-go-lucky type of babyface following that loss. You can sense there was a little bit of desperation for John Cena, recognizing that just like his song says, my time is now, that's not the case anymore. His time is limited. He realizes that there's a lot of young guns out there who are looking to take that spot that he has held for decades. So John Cena announces his participation in the Elimination Chamber. Meanwhile, you got the other guys like Punk, Rollins, etc. They have to qualify for their matches. These are guys that are there week in and week out, trying to earn their spot in the respective main event of WrestleMania. And we saw it on one of the promos leading up to the event, where CM Punk says he's on a farewell tour, but he's not really showing up. John Cena's only been on the episode of Monday Night Raw that was the debut on Netflix, the Royal Rumble, and the Elimination Chamber would be his third. That's a part-time schedule. Now we know John Cena, of course, is big in Hollywood. He has his ventures outside of the business. But for someone who's always been very adamant about how much he loves this business, we haven't really seen a lot of him. And I know, granted, it's only the first couple of months. We still have a lot more, appearances to look forward to in the year. But at first glance, it's like, I don't know. There's something there. There's something there. Then you fast forward to the Elimination Chamber event itself. John Cena has a great showing, aside from his bald spot on his head, which is very, very distracting at times. He has a great showing. Ultimately wins the Elimination Chamber, and it's a great moment for fans old and new with John Cena, who the WWE many times has proclaimed as the GOAT, the greatest of all time. We haven't been seeing that recently, but the sentiment is still there. He wins the matchup. Again, a good chamber matchup, I might add. I thought it was fun. I liked the inclusion of Damian and Drew McIntyre. We're getting a little bit of a story advancement there. Logan Paul, of course, doing Logan Paul things. The Punk and Cena's interaction, always a welcome sight. And then there's Seth Rollins and that level of hatred that he feels for Punk. It's still there. That feud's not over with. We'll dive into that in a bit. But with John Cena, he wins the matchup. The chamber begins to rise. And we're now preparing for the final segment of the show. Cody Rhodes, the reigning defending WWE champion who won the title at WrestleMania 40, getting close to a year now as the quarterback, as QB1, as he would say, makes his way to the ring. Obviously to have the face-off with his challenger, John Cena, but then again to also address The Rock, the final boss, and whether or not he'd be selling his soul and becoming the People's Champion's champion, essentially. But in that moment, we see Cody Rhodes and John Cena standing across from one another. And it's an awe-inspiring moment. Two generations. I know Cody Rhodes and Cena have had matches in the past during that legacy rivalry between Cena and Randy Orton. They have their differences there. But to see these iterations of the men here in the ring, it was very interesting, to see the contrast in styles. John Cena was a polarizing figure during his run at the top. Half were booing, half were cheering. Cody Rhodes is the first babyface in a long time to practically be universally praised, to receive a warm welcome from the audience, men, women, and children. He's the next phase of this business. He's the next face of this business, if you will. There's a great deal of respect between these two. Cody Rhodes looked up to John. Obviously, he rode the roads with John and Randy Orton, two of the very best that WWE has ever seen. So Cody Rhodes has the intelligence, he has the experience, and he certainly had the guidance to get to where he is. We talk about hustle, loyalty, and respect. That's Cody Rhodes. He had to hustle to where he had to be. Left the WWE, made a name for himself on the outside, respects the business, and remains loyal to the game. That's Cody Rhodes through and through. So we get this face-off between the two, and again, it's a clash of styles. It's a clash of eras. The American Nightmare versus the GOAT, John Cena. But it wouldn't be for too long because, of course, The Rock would make his grand entrance into the arena, followed by Travis Scott in tow, which I thought was a very interesting choice. Didn't expect Travis Scott to be with The Rock. I know it was reported he would be at the show, but it was an interesting choice there. And The Rock decked out in like an Elvis-inspired cosplay, of course, because WrestleMania will be emanating from Las Vegas, Nevada, the entertainment capital of the world, somewhere that Elvis is very familiar with. And he comes out and he talks to Cody Rhodes, and again, we lead back to that conversation of, will you be my champion? Will you sell your soul? I can give you everything and more. You can be one of the all-time greats. Essentially, that comparison between himself, The Rock, and John Cena. John Cena and The Rock know very well what it is to succeed in the WWE and parlay that into superstardom. Two of the biggest Hollywood stars right now. Two of the most influential figures in Hollywood. That could be you, Cody Rhodes. If you sell your soul to me, if you become my champion, if you become my brother, he kept saying. And I thought that was a very interesting choice of words there, brother. Because we know he has a brother, and that's Dustin Rhodes, Goldust, a.k.a., the Natural, who's technically with AEW right now. Something for down the line, maybe? We'll see. But Cody Rhodes takes a moment here, looks all across the arena, of course, pantomiming, trying to get everyone involved in what's going on. And he tells The Rock, I sold my soul a long time ago, but it was to the people. Cody Rhodes rejects the offer of the final boss and goes on to an uncensored version of Go F Yourself. That in itself I thought was shocking. We don't see the WWE really, lean towards that type of language, at least not anymore. Even during the Attitude Era, we didn't really see as much of that. But to see Cody, defiant as ever, tell the final boss, tell him off in that manner, it got a pop out of the crowd. It certainly got a pop out of me at home while watching the show. And so it was set. Cody Rhodes, John Cena, one-on-one for the WWE champion. Who would be the face of the company? Would it be the greatest of all time and John Cena, who could potentially beat the Ric Flair record that has stood the test of time? Or will it be Cody Rhodes, who looks to win another WrestleMania main event following his defeat of Roman Reigns? What a back-to-back that would be as well. Roman Reigns, the best of this generation. John Cena, one of the best of all time. And all the while, standing toe-to-toe with the great one, The Rock. Quite the resume for a young American Nightmare. He goes to extend his hand to John Cena as they begin their road to WrestleMania. They embrace, a sign of respect. They even share a hug. And then it happened. And something that I can never fully express in words, chills ran up and down as we saw John Cena share a look with The Rock. Smiling at first, but then ultimately the smile dropped, and it was a face and expression that we haven't seen in a long time. John Cena, even now, describing this to you, I can feel the chills. Looks at The Rock. Deadpan. No expression. And The Rock gives him the nod, gives him the countdown, and gives him the sign. John Cena, then, because he's a Hollywood actor, takes the moment to reapply that smile, that classic John Cena smile, the Make-A-Wish Foundation John Cena smile. And he pulls back and he looks at Cody Rhodes right in the eyes and proceeds to deliver a kick where the sun don't shine, giving him a low blow. The American Nightmare, now fully involved in a nightmare. Because The Rock even gave him that warning upon being rejected for the offer of being my champion. He says, if you don't, the dream dies. Again. And now we're in what we thought was the endgame last year. We thought endgame was last year. WrestleMania 40. He finally finishes the story, ends the 4-year reign of Roman Reigns. And now it's been taken up to another level. You beat the greatest of this generation. Now you're going to have to beat the greatest of all time in John Cena. John Cena, after delivering a hellacious low blow, proceeds to beat down Cody Rhodes in a vicious manner that we have not seen John Cena in 20 years. You could think back maybe to his Extreme Rules matchup in 2012 against Brock Lesnar, being the last time we saw a super aggressive John Cena. He would take away the Rolex and would use it almost like brass knuckles, proceeding to open up Cody Rhodes. Of course, it wouldn't be a classic Rhodes beatdown with a little bit of color. And Cody's old school like that, so we're going to interject a little bit of emotion there. He would rip off the dress shirt of Cody Rhodes, proceeds to beat him down. Travis Scott even got in the action, which, by the way, Travis Scott, what the hell was he doing? Blowing sage all over the ring while the beatdown's happening. He seemed out of place for me. It's certainly a choice, but I'm going to trust the process here. Hey, sorry to interrupt, but if you're anything like me and can't get enough wrestling content, then you should consider becoming a member here on YouTube. You'll receive access to exclusive content like unique videos, live streams, shorts, and a more behind the scenes look of the channel itself. On top of that, once you become a member here on YouTube, you will receive priority first replies in the comments, as well as special shoutouts in future uploads. And speaking of future uploads, you'll also be able to get to decide what will be the future topics in these future videos. You can join the J area and become a member here by clicking on the link in the description, as well as in the link under the About Me section. This is your big opportunity to see the J area like no one else. We can't thank you enough for the continued support and the continued growth in the channel, so we don't want you to miss out on this exclusive offer. Now, let's get back to the video. Cody Rhodes would then be held down against his will by John Cena. They trusted Travis Scott to do the same, but he took his liberties with Cody, and if you haven't seen it, there's an alternate angle of Travis Scott smacking the holy hell out of Cody Rhodes, taking liberties into his own. He would lift Cody Rhodes up to face as if he's the one he's going to fight, and then Cena at one point just shoves Cody back down. I'm pretty sure Travis Scott was pretty high. Not going to lie to you. But then they hold him down, and The Rock proceeds to lay the smack down with the weight belt that says Cody's soul and the date that Dusty Rhodes passed away. Beats him down, reminiscent of the now infamous, legendary beatdown that we saw last year in the build to WrestleMania 40, where The Rock was beating down Cody Rhodes in the rain, and Cody Rhodes having color all over his face. Very reminiscent of that. And the final shot of the pay-per-view, of the PLE, would be The Rock and Travis Scott and a now evil John Cena standing tall as the audience is in shock. It's something that I never thought I would see, certainly not in this lifetime, because we got to the point where John Cena just didn't turn heel. It didn't make sense business-wise. You know, they always prided themselves in marketability and the merchandise, and John Cena's a big merch mover, so why turn him heel? Doesn't make sense. But now that we're in the last leg of his career, now that we're in the end game for John Cena and he's on this retirement tour, why not cross all the boxes off? John Cena is a desperate man. He is obsessed with getting number 17, beating Ric Flair's record, and proving that he still has it. John Cena has not won a singles matchup since 2018. It is a fact that has been well documented. Every single time he has a big matchup, he has not won a one-on-one matchup. This is his opportunity. His last opportunity, perhaps, to rectify that and win a 17th World Championship. So in doing so, you got to do whatever it takes. By any means necessary. And if that's aligning yourself with the final boss, then so be it. John Cena's willing to do it. John Cena's willing to go to that lengths. Doesn't care about Cody Rhodes, doesn't care about this new generation. He cares about preserving his legacy. He's hustled for so many years. He's remained loyal to the game for so many years. And at this point, he feels entitled to have that respect that should be associated with it. This is a new era. This is new ground that we're covering here with John Cena. We haven't seen a heel John Cena since November. Keep in mind, since November of 2003. Think about where the world was at in November of 2003. What has changed over the course of 22 years? The events that have transpired, the innovations that have been introduced. It was a different world back then. It was a completely different world back then, both in wrestling and in the greater world itself. I don't think we're ready for this. I really don't. What's going to happen on Monday Night Raw and presumably Friday Night SmackDown in the lead up to WrestleMania 41 is must-see TV. People were criticizing this build to WrestleMania 41 as being lackluster. It wasn't the same as these last two, but granted, these last two were stellar. So it's hard to keep up with that. But now that we have this going on, it's must-see. Every segment that Cody's a part of, every segment that John Cena and The Rock will be seen in, can't miss. appointment television, and that's what you want. That's what you need in pro wrestling is appointment television. Why should I be watching this, right? And then how do I keep their attention for the next go around? That's how you retain interest. That's how you build momentum into quite possibly could be one of the biggest matches in WrestleMania history. And we thought that's what we saw last year. Cody versus Roman, I thought was one of, if not the biggest main event that they had done in recent memory or for the sake of an argument of all time. But to see what we have in front of us here, the endless possibilities between an uber babyface like Cody Rhodes against an uber heel like John Cena. I'm anticipating new gear. I'm anticipating a new theme song. Who knows? Maybe the attitude adjustment even reverts back to its original name. For those who don't remember, it wasn't always the attitude adjustment. It used to be the FU. And I think there's a strong possibility that we might see that revert back to that. Because at this point, why not? Why not? If you're going to go heel, go all in. Go all in. The ramifications of this event are going to run deep. We're going to look back at this heel turn and it'll be studied. Maybe that's recency bias, but I look at this heel turn on the same level of like Hulk Hogan in 96 when they first formed the New World Order. Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania 17 when he joined Vince McMahon. I will say that one didn't work out as well. But in the moment, it caught everyone by surprise. It caught everyone off guard. The first promo that we're going to hear John Cena have as a heel, and the first promo we're going to hear of Cody Rhodes after suffering that beatdown, I can't wait. I can't wait. I know you can't wait. But that wasn't the only thing that transpired at the Elimination Chamber. It was the biggest one for sure. But we also saw a new number one contender being crowned for the women's division. Bianca Belair defeats 5 other women, really 4 other women, to get an opportunity against the Women's World Championship at WrestleMania 41. She would defeat the likes of Liv Morgan, Alexa Bliss, Roxanne Perez, Bayley, and Naomi. And before we get to Bianca Belair, I want to talk about Naomi for a second here. With the Jade Cargill attack, a lot of speculation was being surrounded around who attacked Jade. And at the very beginning, I threw out the names Bianca and Naomi. Has to be one of them. Has to be one of them. So when they started introducing the red herring or the smoke screen, the fake out of Liv Morgan and Raquel, immediately I'm like, no. That's what they want you to think. That's the red herring. That's the swerve. So here comes Jade Cargill at the beginning of the matchup because it's opening with Naomi and Liv Morgan as the opening participants for the Elimination Chamber. And out comes Jade Cargill, and immediately I sit up. Because I'm thinking she's coming back on SmackDown. I didn't think she was going to come right then and there. But sure enough, she comes. She makes her way down. No funny business at all. All serious. Goes into the direction of Liv Morgan. And immediately cuts her way to Naomi and proceeds to beat Naomi down. I mean, good God Almighty. And then Bianca Belair. The selling of Bianca Belair is what really made this for me personally. She's stuck in the pod. She's seeing her former tag team partner and her current tag team partner not even in a brawl, because it was very one-sided. Naomi never had a shot. Never had a shot. And Jade proceeds to beat Naomi down to the point where she is no longer fit to compete in the Elimination Chamber. But a lot of people, they pointed this out, and I think it's very important to keep this in consideration. If I'm Liv Morgan and I didn't do the attack, why was she there putting up her arms as if she's getting ready to get hit? Liv Morgan was intimidated, thinking that she was going to get the beat down by Jade Cargill. Why would she do that if she wasn't guilty? And if Naomi attacked Jade Cargill, shouldn't she be the one expecting the beatdown? I think you got to take things at face value. I think the WWE has really improved in terms of its storytelling and the nuances that are introduced in these type of interactions. I think Liv Morgan may not be completely innocent. And at the same time, I think Naomi might be. Naomi got beat down and didn't see it coming. If Naomi was the one that did it, don't you think that she would have been prepared? At least she would have had that kind of heelish expression of like, oh no, here comes Jade. There wasn't that. If anything, Jade Cargill came off more heelish than Naomi. And I know in terms of logic, I mean, I too would want to get revenge on my attacker. But I feel like there's a bigger plan here. I feel like Naomi's the scapegoat. I think Naomi's being played. Jade Cargill is being led to believe that Naomi was the attacker, and I'm not so sure it is. I can't buy it. Naomi is the one person that benefited the most from Jade Cargill's absence. She won the tag team titles alongside Bianca Belair, was featured prominently on WWE TV. All the while, Jade Cargill was out of action. There's a sense of a little bit of a motive here for Naomi. Naomi makes her big return at the Royal Rumble back in 2024. But everyone doesn't talk about it. No one talks about it because Jade Cargill made her long-awaited debut. So immediately there's a little bit of dissension, maybe a little bit of jealousy there. Which makes me think it's the perfect crime. It's the perfect cover-up. We're thinking it's Naomi because all these things are lining up. But who's to say that someone didn't pin this on Naomi? And they want Jade Cargill to believe that it was Naomi. I'm not fully sold on it. At first glance, I would have thought maybe Bianca. Because I think the ultimate goal is Bianca versus Jade. I think that's the money matchup. I love Naomi. But the money matchup's not with her. It's Bianca and Jade. So this whole story gets kind of thrown out the window because Bianca wins the chamber. She's a guaranteed opportunity against either Io or Rhea Ripley, depending who wins the championship tonight on Raw. And if she didn't have that championship opportunity, I would think it's going to be her and Jade. Maybe even a triple threat match. And I feel like the word triple threat has been thrown out a lot for this WrestleMania. There's a different avenues for triple threats to occur at WrestleMania 41. But for the case of this story, to me, it made more sense to have Jade versus Bianca. Not the case anymore. Maybe we'll revisit that at another date. But stick with me here. I'm not sure if Naomi's fully at fault here. I think she might be getting played. I really do. But Bianca Belair versus Rhea or Io is surely going to be a great matchup. I mean, 3 of the top women during the NXT Black and Gold era. Triple H's big 3, if you will, during his time in NXT. So any combination of that matchup, I'm there for. We will be seated. We will be watching. I don't know who's going to win it, though. You got 3 of the... In my opinion, those are the 3 best women in the division. I'm a big fan of Io. Rhea Ripley's a megastar. And then there's Bianca Belair, who I think could do everything. She's an all-around jack of all trades. 3 of your biggest stars. It can't get any bigger than that. It really can't. But we talk about stars. Let's talk about stars from other generations. Trish Stratus makes her return into the ring, teaming up with the WWE Women's Champion, Tiffany Stratton, and they would defeat Nia Jax and Candice LeRae. I thought this matchup was fine. You know, for me, it wasn't anything spectacular. It didn't catch me off guard. It didn't surprise me. It is what it is. It was what it was supposed to be. A good showcase of Tiffany Stratton as she's a babyface looking to defend her championship at WrestleMania 41. It was a good little treat for the hometown. You know, Trish Stratus makes her appearance and has a good showing, as she does. And we get to see more Nia and Candice, and I'm all for it. There's a lot of Nia hate, but I'm actually pretty happy for Nia. This last year for her, I thought was her best year by far in the company. And Candice LeRae doesn't get enough love. We love Candice LeRae here on the J area. But then following that, there's no love lost between Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. They have their unsanctioned matchup. And, I mean, come on. Come on, 2 Canadian boys in front of a Canadian crowd. What more could you want? Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn know each other like the back of one another's hand. These guys get it. They got the chemistry, they got the talent, and they got the wherewithal to tell a story in front of a hot Canadian crowd, by the way. Kevin Owens would get the victory, defeating Sami Zayn, and obviously we have to wait for what Sami Zayn's prognosis is following the pop-up power bomb on the apron that he suffered against Kevin Owens. He almost got pile drive through onto the concrete. Except the return of Randy Orton, right? Something that we anticipated. Ever since Randy Orton received the pile driver back in November of 2024, we basically understood, okay, that's going to be the Mania matchup here. People wanted Randy versus Cody, but after that pile driver, I was like, no, it's going to be Kevin and Randy. And it's full circle. Because at WrestleMania 40, that's when their interactions began. They were in a triple threat match against Logan Paul for the U.S. title. But now, we get a blood feud here between Kevin and Randy Orton, who almost brought back the punt, no less. What a moment that's going to be. I think that's what we're leading to. Kevin Owens is going to have to get his comeuppance. He's going to have to get his. He's delivered pile drivers to Cody Rhodes, Sami Zayn, and Randy Orton, of course. So I think we are going to build up towards this punt by Randy Orton as the send-off for this story. Where does that leave Sami Zayn? We're going to have to wait and see. But what an event where you got to see the return of Jade Cargill following the attack. Randy Orton's big return after, 4 months away? About, give or take a couple weeks. And of course, John Cena turning heel. It was a huge event. I mean, the WWE outdid themselves for this event. And they laid a lot of groundwork for future stories. If you look at the women's chamber matchup, Roxanne Perez and Bayley, that's something that's still in the works. We've been doing this since like NXT New Year's Evil. And I think that's going to be happening, whether it's at WrestleMania or maybe the Raw or SmackDown prior to the event. Roxanne versus Bayley, I think, is pretty much set in stone. I think it's going to happen. Alexa Bliss had a moment there with Liv Morgan. I don't know if you guys caught that, but upon Alexa Bliss's elimination at the hands of Liv Morgan, they had a little bit of a face-off. Now, this is going to be one of three options, I think. Number one, Alexa Bliss versus Liv Morgan straight up, which I think would be an interesting matchup, intriguing. These girls are on different brands, though, so I don't know if that's going to work out. I know the WWE recently has kind of been a little bit lenient when it comes to their brand warfare here, especially because the draft is coming up following WrestleMania 41. But if we don't go one-on-one, I'm thinking tag team championships. Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez are currently the tag team champions. Alexa Bliss needs a partner, but we know that she has ties to the Wyatt Six. We've been seeing a lot of those messages beginning to pop up again during Alexa Bliss's segments. Who is she teaming up with? Well, what if she teams up with someone that she has history with? Nikki Cross, who's currently with the Wyatt Six. You could revisit that tag team. Have them go up against Morgan and Rodriguez. Probably win the tag titles. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I don't think they're going to lose that matchup, especially because the Wyatt Six need some momentum. We haven't seen them for quite some time. Their most recent, note in the WWE was losing to the Final Testament, who aren't even a thing anymore. So we need some wins for them. That's the second option. The third option, which I find the least likely, Judgment Day versus Wyatt Six. Because you're gonna have the bodies. You can have a tag team matchup where there's no JD, but so it's gonna end up being someone like Carlito, Dominic, Liv, and Rodriguez, 4 versus 4, and just choose any other two for the Wyatt Six, whether it's Eric Rowan, Joe Gacy, or Dexter. I don't see Uncle Howdy being in there. He's the mouthpiece. He's the centerpiece. He won't be in the matchup. Those are the three avenues. I think the most likely option here, though, is the tag titles. You want to get those championships being defended, and especially with an act like the Wyatt Six, it'd be interesting to show them a little bit more. Maybe not too much, but again, reintroduce them back into the fold. And you want Liv Morgan still on your TV because she's had the best year of her career. We talked about Nia Jax. Liv Morgan, one of the unsung heroes of the women's division, stepped up to another level here in 2024. And aside from that, it looks like the men's chamber, we're going to have like Damian Priest and Drew McIntyre. Their story's far from over. Damian Priest eliminated Drew McIntyre both in the Royal Rumble and in the Elimination Chamber. I think those two have a matchup at WrestleMania, and Drew desperately needs this win. Desperately needs this win. When was the last time Drew McIntyre won a feud? He's a great hand. I mean, this guy has great matches, great promos, has the presence of a star, and we don't have him winning. He needs to win. I like Damian. I'm a fan of Priest, but Drew needs this more than him. He really does. And it would be a nice little bow on their story because it all began at WrestleMania 40, where Drew lost his championship to a Money in the Bank cash in by Damian Priest at WrestleMania 40. So to have it go full circle at 41, I think it's a nice bow, and you give Drew his win back, and then let's move forward in trying to rebuild him into the Scottish psychopath that we know he is. I look at CM Punk, who lost to John Cena, of course. We mentioned that earlier. And where does he lie in the story? Where are his plans? He still has that favor, which I think is an integral part of his story. Some people say it doesn't have to be cashed in here for WrestleMania, but why wouldn't you? It's the biggest show of the year. It would make sense, right? I see 3 different avenues for CM Punk. Number 1, there's reports saying that it'll be him, Seth Rollins, and Roman Reigns in a triple threat match. I think that's very much a possibility. Seth has had beef with both guys. Seth has beef with Roman because of the double stomp at the Royal Rumble, and now he has beef with CM Punk because of the elimination at the Elimination Chamber. So I could see that being a triple threat match for sure. I think that'll be the most likely case. And if that's the case, that might be a main event of night 1, because that's big. 3 of your biggest stars in one matchup, that might be the case. Number 2, I think maybe he uses that favor and somehow gets in the Cena versus Rhodes matchup. I don't know how. Maybe by way of Paul Heyman, who is obviously the wise man to the bloodline, has a little bit of pull, can talk to the final boss, who's technically another member of the bloodline, I suppose, and maybe find himself in that matchup. Maybe. He already has beef with John Cena. It's well documented. He's very anti-authority, though, so him against Rock, I mean, that's an interesting prospect as well. Cody, there's no beef there. There's that level of respect, but it was hinted upon during the build-up to Royal Rumble that these two would go at it as well. That's another option. I think the third option, and the one I really hope does not happen, but I have to bring it up, is Logan Paul. Logan Paul eliminated CM Punk in the Royal Rumble. Punk got his get back at the Elimination Chamber by eliminating him. Something tells me there's an opportunity here for the rubber match between Paul and Punk. I don't want this one. This is the one I do not want, but it's the one I could see happening. I think it's the second most possible outcome. I hope it's not the case. CM Punk deserves way better. And this is no disrespect to Logan Paul, but CM Punk, man, I mean, this is the biggest star in pro wrestling. You know, some people are going to argue guys like Roman Reigns, John Cena, Cody Rhodes, that's fine. But CM Punk was gone for 10 years and was still prominently chanted across every arena. His return did numbers in AEW. His return did numbers in the WWE. He's a draw. He's a star. Odds are, if you're talking pro wrestling, there's a good shot people will recognize Punk or they've heard of his name. And him against Logan Paul, it's not as attractive to me as a matchup. It's one of those matches where it's like, well, he better win. He better not lose to Paul. But you never know, right? A lot of possibilities here. We know that Tiffany Stratton's going to be facing off against Charlotte Flair. We talked about Bianca Belair's championship opportunity as well. And then what about Nia Jax and Candice LeRae? Don't know where we're going to go there. There's a lot of different avenues, a lot of different storylines to be explored upon, but I would love to hear from you guys in the comments below. What were your thoughts on the Elimination Chamber? What are your levels of hype for WrestleMania 41 now that we got this monumental heel turn by John Cena? If you enjoyed this episode of the podcast, please make sure to give it a thumbs up and help us out here in the J area. Subscribe if you haven't already in order to stay up to date with all the pro wrestling content that we produce here on YouTube. And don't forget to follow us also on Twitter and TikTok at JAreaPod_. And with that being said, I want to thank you guys for joining me for today's episode of the J Area Wrestling Podcast, and hopefully we'll see you all in the next one.